Welcome to the Invite Health podcast, where our degreed healthcare professionals are excited to offer you the most important health and wellness information you need to make informed choices about your health. You can learn more about the products discussed in each of these episodes and all that Invite Health has to offer at www.invitehealth.com/podcast. First-time customers can use promo code podcast at checkout for an additional 15% off your first purchase. Let's get started.
And just like that, we are ending one season and transitioning into another, which means it is fall allergy time for so many folks out there. And I want to talk about what you can be doing to support your immune system, your respiratory system. When we think about how many people every single year are dealing with different allergies. We know over 50 million Americans experience various types of allergies each and every single year. And usually it's coming from those indoor and outdoor allergies. So when we talk about tree and grass and weed pollen, mold spores, dust mites, for example, we know that these are all common irritants that can really wreak massive havoc in your life. So I want to tell you all about what you can be doing to prime up for this new fall allergy season. I'm Amanda Williams, MD, MPH, and I know all about those fall allergies because when I grew up in Michigan, every single September, I would get hay fever. And I never really understood what that meant because, when you're younger, you're like, I don't know, hay fever. But it was ragweed, and the ragweed would trigger this kind of allergic rhinitis where you would start to experience, itchy, runny eyes, itchy throat, scratchy throat, sneezing, runny nose. All of these things. And so every year, the start of school, I would always have to go with a full box of Kleenex with me because it just never failed. And your ears start to feel itchy. And it was due to ragweed. And we know that throughout the Midwest and the Northeast in particular, you start to see a lot of this pollination that is occurring. And this can really start to drive up a lot of the symptomatic issues that people can experience during the fall time. Certainly, we can look at the lingering of warmer weather. So as we're transitioning from summer into fall, oftentimes that unseasonably warmer temperature can make things like rhinitis last even longer. We know that mold spores are very common during this time of year, and this can be released into the air when the humidity is higher. So this is why many people, come fall time, they start to exhibit symptoms. We can look at the fall leaves, for example. We know that sometimes when people are even raking leaves, that this can trigger those types of symptoms, so that allergic response that can come about because of this time of year. Oftentimes, people will experience this when they go back to school. And I know a lot of people are still going to be doing virtual schooling right now, but this is something that's very common, and it's kind of classified into its own category of school allergens. And looking at all of the different dusts and the different irritants that can be within the air in schools. And for younger children, this is something that you really have to be aware of because this can trigger, certainly an allergic rhinitis response, but also with asthma. So these are all things just to be cognizant of. When we recognize that over 50 million people every single year suffer from some form of allergies, then we know we need to be doing the right thing to address that. And what is the right thing? Obviously, there's many things that you can go to your physician and you can be prescribed for seasonal allergies. We know that there's many over-the-counter medications that can dry you out and provide that symptomatic relief. But we really want to be able to help to assist the body in terms of a more proper immune system response. So we want to think about things such as bolstering up our immune defenses during the fall. So utilizing probiotics, for example, to help colonize good, healthy bacteria within the intestines to really help to enhance and support the overall immune system. We can certainly look at citrus bioflavonoids, things like quercetin, for example, things such as vitamin C, which we know can be very, very beneficial. But the other things that we also want to think about is what can we do that really addresses issues when it comes to the sinuses, when it comes to the respiratory tracts. For many people, this is where they will see more of those significant symptoms, the sneezing and the itchy ears, the runny eyes, all of that, and maybe even wheezing for some people. So we want to address the inflammatory reaction that happens in the body that's triggered from these types of tree pollens and dust pollens and mold. So what is it that you can be looking at? Well, we want to think about nutrients that we know are very targeted towards the respiratory system and the sinuses. So we think about things like black seed extract. We know that black cumin seed extract works via means of the LOX pathway. So when we look at the way in which inflammation can drive up in the human body, we have the COX pathway, COX-1 and COX-2, and then we have the LOX pathway, which is lipooxygenase. So if we can try to remedy that situation where all of those inflammatory cytokines and prostaglandins are being overly released, then we are doing a good thing for our body. So we know that the black seed, that cumin extract, is very targeted towards that lipooxygenase pathway, which can be very good for the respiratory systems when we think about our lung function, but also when we think about the sinus cavities. So for many people, they'll find that if they start to incorporate in black seed extract during times where seasonal allergies are at a high amount, they will see a tremendous difference in terms of the way that their body is actually responding to those pesky irritants that are in the air. Now, we can also look at other nutrients such as rosemary extract. We know that rosemary extract contains a powerful active constituent in it known as rosmarinic acid. The rosmarinic acid is very beneficial when it comes to helping the body with a normalized response with histamine. So your histamine is released from your mast cells when we get overstimulated because of these different pollens. Then we can have an overabundance of histamine being produced and released, which is what creates all of those issues, all of those symptoms that you experience. The sneezing, the runny nose, all of those are driven because of histamine. And we know that rosmarinic acid helps the body in terms of a more normalized release or regulation of histamine. So we look at black seed extract, we look at quercetin, so those citrus bioflavonoids we know are also very beneficial when it comes to targeting the histamine overabundance. And these are all ways in which you can kind of prime the body for this transitional time. So transitioning from summer into fall, we have to have a playbook. So we think, what do we do for our gut? Because our gut has 70 to 80% of the immune system located there. So probiotics. So how do we source different probiotics? Well, we can just take a simple multi-strain probiotic every single day. This could be a really good way to do this. We can incorporate in different nutrients such as a powdered formulation that maybe is a comprehensive blend that contains citrus bioflavonoids along with probiotics. So if you go to our website, you'll be able to see all of the different probiotic options for you. So for some people, they'll find that utilizing the reds or the greens can be very helpful during this time because it's giving you a lot of those really powerful antioxidants and those citrus bioflavonoids along with this beautiful probiotic blend. So we're helping to enhance the immune system and a proper inflammatory response on two fronts. We can look at the black seed combination along with rosmarinic acid and cordyceps mushrooms and how the cordyceps can also help in terms of proper regulation of the immune system response. Remember, mushrooms have a natural sourcing for vitamin D. We know vitamin D plays this really critical and essential role when it comes to our immune response. So there's a lot of different things that we can be looking at. We can look at things like nettle root extract. Stinging nettle root has been around for hundreds of years, and it's been used medicinally for a variety of different health conditions. And in terms of seasonal changes in those pollens and the molds and all of that, they have found that nettle root extract, once again, is very good at helping the body with proper regulation of those cytokine release and the prostaglandin release and the proper inflammation response. So we have nettle root extract, all of these different ways in which you can incorporate these powerful things that are coming from nature. It's kind of ironic because we look at things that are coming from nature, such as tree pollens and grass pollens and the molds that build up because of, leaves and things like that. And we say, okay, well, those things are from nature and they're creating this really kind of horrible response in our body because we're sensitive to it. It's creating all of this histamine. But yet there's other things that are in nature that can help to offset that. It's kind of that yin and the yang. There's always that balance. We can look at, a teeter-totter approach. So there are certain things that can drive up inflammation and create irritation. And there are other things that are going to drive down that irritation and that inflammation. So these are all things to be cognizant of during this time. It's really remarkable. There are differences, clearly here in Florida as well. But in Florida, usually it's more of a mold issue that people will have year round. There are different times throughout the year where you have different tree and grass pollens as well. But it's more pronounced in terms of that major seasonal allergy shifting when we look at the Midwest and the Northeast, because it's such a blunted effect. You can have one, week where it's 70 degrees and the next week you're at 40 degrees. And so it's all of those fluctuations in terms of the humidity, in terms of the changes that are occurring within trees. And this is why for so many people, it is that fall allergy season that really creates so much havoc. And there's a reason why when you look at the over-the-counter, sales of different things, the antihistamines, all of those, why it's so high. I always tell people, if you just look at your Sunday flyer that comes in the newspaper, if people read the newspaper anymore, but, when you look at a Sunday circular and you're looking at your local pharmacy, they usually have 2 or 3 pages that are dedicated to all of these allergies. And, this antihistamine, this helps dry out, the whole system. And for many people, if you have a constant runny nose, that's all that you're thinking about. It's like, I just want it to stop. I want to stop blowing my nose. And then you have the, an overcorrection of that. And the next thing you know, you're all stuffed up. So, there's always that balance. That's why oftentimes fighting nature with nature can be very powerful and extremely advantageous. So we think, okay, there's these different things that are driving up in the fall time that are triggering an allergic response. How do we offset that? Well, let's throw nature back at it. And that's why, for me, I always like to look at those different things first. I like to think, okay, throughout the summer, were you taking enough probiotics? Were you having foods incorporated into your diet that were yielding you those healthy bacteria? The fermented foods. For many people, they just don't take in enough of those. And then we think to ourselves, well, what else should we be doing? Incorporating the things, as I mentioned, such as the reds, such as the greens. And as you go through and you look on our website, you'll be able to detect the different nutrients that may be very beneficial for you. We have the immunity formulation. That's just a nice one just to have during the fall as well, because it's giving you all those main vitamins and minerals. And remember, when we think about just basic vitamins and minerals, they are required for both our innate and our adaptive immune response. So it's really quite important to make sure that at minimum, we are taking in those vitamins and minerals. We can look at the immunity HX, which is that combination of zinc, vitamin C, and vitamin D. That's also a really good option to have on board. Knowing the power of vitamin D when it comes to the immune system, understanding the way that zinc is working, once again, for the regulation of immune response. So there's so many different options out there to help your body to offset or to combat those type of seasonal changes that are going to be knocking on our door very, very soon. So black seed extract, like I said, the cumin, having that ability to target that lipooxygenase, utilizing rosmarinic acid coming from rosemary extract that's really targeted towards that histamine response, utilizing cordyceps mushrooms, which we know helps to enhance, once again, the immune system's ability to respond in a more appropriate fashion, not over responding and having this heightened state of histamine release, which drives up all of those problematic symptoms that are associated with fall allergies. So these are all things just to be aware of. And remember, if you want to know specifically what nutrients you should be using and how you should set your routine up to target your fall seasonal changes, definitely reach out to one of the Invite health specialists, and they will be able to give you a very personalized approach as to what nutrients are going to give you the most support during this time. And like I said, I can reflect back. Oddly enough, when I moved to Florida, I found that my allergies kind of went away. So I'm apparently not impacted by the high amount of grass and tree pollens here in the state of Florida like I was in Michigan. In Michigan, it was every single fall as well as every single spring. I would get it in the spring too, because in the spring when everything was starting to melt, and then you would get this driving up, I suppose it was basically mold. So you would think I would have that problem here in Florida, but I don't. But just that whole changing of the seasons, I was really, really impacted by that. But I have had so much success with people utilizing things like black seed extract, things like stinging nettle root, making sure they have adequate probiotic and vitamin C and vitamin D. It's just really remarkable to think that if we just create some more balance in terms of vitamins and minerals and antioxidants, then just how powerful that actually is in terms of our immune system response, and so that we are not hindered by that seasonal change as much. So that is all that I have for you for today. I just want to thank you for tuning in to the Invite Health podcast. Remember, you can find all of our episodes for free wherever you listen to podcasts or by visiting invitehealth.com/podcast. Do make sure that you subscribe and you leave us a review. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Invite Health. And we will see you next time for another episode of the Invite Health podcast.